How much money do you really need to stop feeling broke? There is a strange point in life when earning more money stops feeling like the obvious solution. You get a raise, your paycheck gets bigger, and for a moment you expect things to feel different. But then rent increases, groceries cost more, insurance takes another piece of your income, and somehow the larger paycheck disappears almost as quickly as the smaller one did. So the question becomes more interesting than simply asking how much you earn. How much money do you actually need before you stop feeling broke? Imagine two people living in the same American city. One earns $50,000 a year and has $2,000 in savings. The other earns $100,000 but has $1,500 in savings and $4,000 in monthly obligations. On paper, the second person is earning twice as much. Psychologically, however, they may feel less secure. The reason is that financial comfort is not determined by income alone. It is influenced by the distance between what comes in, what must go out, and how much room remains when something unexpected happens. This is where the idea of a financial threshold becomes important. There is no universal dollar amount at which everyone suddenly stops feeling broke because housing costs, family size, debt, location, and lifestyle are different for every household. But there are measurable stages where money begins to change the way you make decisions. Consider what happens when you have almost no cash reserve. A $500 car repair is not simply a $500 expense. It can become a credit card balance, a delayed bill, a borrowed payment, or a decision between two necessities. The same $500 expense feels completely different when you have $5,000 sitting in an emergency reserve. The cost of the repair has not changed, your financial position has. This is one of the most overlooked parts of personal finance. Money does not only buy things, it can buy time, flexibility, and the ability to absorb uncertainty. When your bank balance is constantly close to zero, every unexpected expense becomes an event. When you have a meaningful cash buffer, many of those same expenses become ordinary transactions. But there is another threshold that matters even more: the point where your monthly income consistently exceeds your required expenses by enough to create a surplus. Imagine someone taking home $4,500 per month while their essential and committed expenses total $4,300. They technically have positive cash flow, but only $200 of monthly breathing room. A single unexpected expense can erase several months of progress. Now imagine another person with the same $4,500 take-home income, but $3,200 in required expenses. Their monthly surplus is $1,300. The income is identical. The difference is the structure underneath it. That difference is why financial security is often less about chasing a specific salary and more about creating a gap. The mathematical relationship is simple. If your monthly take-home income is I and your necessary and committed expenses are E, then your financial margin is I minus E. If I is $5,000 and E is $4,800, your margin is only $200. If E falls to $3,500, the margin becomes $1,500 without changing your income at all. This is where lifestyle inflation quietly changes the equation. When income rises, people often allow recurring expenses to rise with it. A larger apartment creates a larger rent payment. A newer vehicle creates a larger loan and insurance payment. More expensive habits become normal. Each individual decision may seem reasonable, but together they reduce the gap between income and expenses. The psychological effect is subtle. A person can earn more while becoming more financially fragile. This is also why the phrase "six figures" can be misleading. In the United States, $100,000 sounds like a major financial milestone, but the actual experience depends heavily on location, household size, taxes, debt, and spending commitments. Someone earning $100,000 with low fixed costs can have a very different financial life from someone earning the same amount while carrying expensive housing, transportation, childcare, and consumer debt. Income tells you how much enters the system. It does not tell you how much freedom the system produces. There is also a psychological phenomenon behind why people continue to feel broke even after their income increases. Humans adapt surprisingly quickly to changes in their circumstances. What once felt like a luxury can become normal. What once felt unnecessary can become part of the expected monthly budget. The new lifestyle becomes the baseline, and the emotional benefit of the higher income fades. That means the question, how much do I need to stop feeling broke, may actually contain two different questions. The first is mathematical. How much money do I need to cover my life with a reasonable margin? The second is psychological. How much is enough for me to stop constantly raising the definition of enough? The first question can be calculated. The second requires a decision. A useful way to think about financial security is through layers rather than one giant target. The first layer is having enough cash to handle small, unexpected expenses without borrowing. The next is building a larger emergency reserve that can cover several months of essential spending. Beyond that, the focus can shift toward reducing expensive debt, increasing long-term investments, and creating greater flexibility between income and expenses. The exact dollar amounts will differ from person to person, but the principle remains consistent. Financial security increases when your obligations become smaller relative to your resources and your reserves become larger relative to your risks. And there is an important distinction between being wealthy and no longer feeling broke. You do not necessarily need millions of dollars to stop living in constant financial anxiety. You may need something much more practical: predictable cash flow, manageable fixed expenses, an emergency reserve, and enough monthly surplus that an unexpected bill does not immediately threaten your entire budget. In other words, the goal is not necessarily to reach a number that makes you feel rich. It is to reach a position where ordinary financial problems stop becoming financial emergencies. That changes the way you look at money. Instead of asking, "How much can I earn?" you start asking, "How much of what I earn actually remains available after my commitments?" Instead of asking, "Can I afford this monthly payment?" you ask, "Do I want this payment to become part of my permanent financial structure?" And instead of asking, "How much do I need to become rich?" you begin asking a much more useful question: "How much do I need so that money stops controlling every decision?" There may never be a single number that makes everyone feel financially secure, but there is a measurable direction: lower fixed obligations, larger reserves, more consistent surplus, less dependence on debt, more distance between what you earn and what you are required to spend. The surprising answer is that stopping feeling broke may have less to do with reaching a huge income number and more to do with creating enough financial space that one bad month no longer becomes a crisis. Because wealth is not only the amount of money you have, sometimes it is the amount of pressure your money no longer has to create.